I'm going to time myself here so I don't go over too far. Whoops. I remember last week the other guys were saying a bunch of stuff was happening to them. Nothing bad happened to me, so I didn't break my leg or anything like that. So, all right, there you go. All right, I'm George Constant, for those of you who don't know me, and I've kind of shared my testimony a little bit here and there, and I was really praying about what to share and all that, and how much of it I should share, because I had I had a pretty tough life growing up. I grew up in I didn't grow up in a Christian home at first. My mom and dad, I think it was mostly my mom, believed in God, and she's here today. She's sitting over there if you want to say hi to her later. and yeah, like I said, they weren't Christians at first, and it was kind of a rough growing up for me. My parents used to drink quite a bit, and my dad was he was an abusive man to my mom. And I remember waking up mornings and seeing my mom with, beat up from my dad and all that. And, that was pretty tough to see that. And me and my brother, my older brother, Philip, we used to try to help my mom sometimes and all that. And so that's that. And then somewhere in there around age, I don't know what age, but I think around 10 or 11 or even younger than that, I became a Christian. And my mom became a Christian in between that too. It was first my mom became a Christian and my dad became a Christian. And then we all end up becoming a Christian. And on top of that happening to me as a kid, I was also sexually abused as a kid and all that, and I was sexually abused by two men, so that really messed with me growing up too. There was actually a point in my life where I actually thought I thought about becoming a homosexual for a while, because I thought that, that these guys that were doing this to me, I said, oh, I must be gay then, because guys like me and stuff like that. And there was a point in my life where I was confused about that kind of stuff, But going to church and God's grace, that song that was just sung, God really helped me through that to help me realize and keep me on the right path and all that. And then and this is the part I've shared with you guys before, is and then in 1990, that's when my whole world really changed. I lost so much people right in 90 to suicide. And in 1990, it wasn't a good year for me. So I remember in 89, somewhere in November, October might have been, I can't remember. But I lost my grandma that time. And I was pretty close with her. I used to live with her for a while. I think my mom wanted me to stay with her to watch over and be there with her and help her out whenever I could and all that. And it was kind of hard because she didn't speak much English. She spoke Cree, and I didn't know much Cree, so I had to do whatever I could and understand what she was trying to tell me. A lot of pointing, a lot of this, telling me what to do and what to pick up or what to go and stuff like that. And like I said, so in 89, she passed away. And then in February, I lost my best friend to suicide. And his name was Daryl, but we used to call him Governor. And I lost Gov during that time in February, and that really just changed that just changed my world. It came out of nowhere. Like there was nothing. None of us seen anything that would have warned us that he was going to do that. He just did it, and I was like, what? And then me and my brother Philip, we were really close to him. We were the three of us were like brothers, And I know the three of us were close because I know the three of us were, I think we were all sexually abused by the same guys. So we had that kind of that strange bond, because we had an understanding of each other because of that. And so we were close in that way. And like I said, and then 6 months after that, my brother killed himself. My brother Philip, and he decided he didn't want to be around anymore too. It was just too hard for him. And then after I just kept coming, I just felt like, I lost cousins, and I lost uncles and stuff like that, and close friends, and I was like, man, is this ever going to end? And it just kept going on and on for a long time there. But God, I was trying to think of some verses when I was coming up here, and I thought about like in Matthew 8, and it's the same in Matthew 4, I think, where Jesus calms the storm, and sometimes I felt like there was storms going on, and it was just crazy and all this stuff, and I was like, and I felt like the disciples sometimes, I was like yelling at God, it's like, God, where are you? Look at all this stuff I'm going through. Look at all this stuff that happened to me as a kid. Now I got to go through this. Where are you? And I felt like the disciples sometimes, the disciples saying, wake up, there's a storm happening, come on, wake up. What's wrong with you? Why are you sleeping? And for myself, that's how I kind of felt sometimes, going through all that stuff and all that. And it was just, like I said, it was a tough life for me, but I think that really helped me as in my walk with God. It just made me stronger, and I'm so glad that I had Jesus in my life. I'm glad that I had him as my Savior, and it's my best friend, because if I didn't have God, I don't think I would be here to this day. I think I would have ended it a long time ago too. I would have just I'm just giving up to and, living this life and forget about it, But because of God, I just kept turning to him. Even though sometimes I felt like he wasn't there, and sometimes he wasn't listening to me, I knew he was there, because that's just the way it is, We just know God is there, and he's watching over us, and he's taking care of us, and I could feel his comfort at times and stuff like that, and I'm just glad that I've always had the Lord in my life. And through that, it just led me into a lot of different ministries. I did ministry of music. I've been in a Christian band with my wife, and we did a lot of playing and touring and talking different places. And with my family, we did a lot of suicide awareness workshops. We just ended one about 2 years ago where we had this bike ride, just bicycles. We started off with 30 people, and last year we ended up about maybe 600 people that would show up for this bike ride, So it was pretty awesome just to do that, and that was a real, that really helped a lot of people, because when you're riding on that road and you're riding with people sometimes on the bike, sometimes that was the only place where people would talk about someone that they lost to suicide. That was the first time my older brother, Craig, or my youngest brother, Craig, I was riding beside him, and he said to me, I really miss Philip. He said, I think about him every day. And I didn't say nothing. I just kind of listened to him, and to hear my brother say that, I remember I had my glasses on, my shades, and I was just crying. And I was thinking, in my heart, I was thinking, it's good to hear him say that, I'm glad he finally said something to me about it. And that's all he said, he didn't say nothing. I didn't say nothing back to him. I just listened to him, and we kept riding, but yeah, it was, during that time, like I said, that was, really helped us as, for those that are healing and going through that, survivors of suicide and all that. And like I said, some of that other stuff that I went through as a kid too, that I really had to find lots of counseling for that, and to get healing from those, from the hurts that happened to me as a kid, and to let that go and just give it to God, And I remember the first time I went for counseling, and I spoke to this guy, and I shared with him so much stuff about what happened to me as a kid, and then I left, and then I remember thinking, well, that didn't help me, and I don't feel any different. I said, it's, and I just remember I felt mad for about 3 days. I was like, what a waste! I was so stupid. I spilled my guts to this guy. I told him a whole bunch of stuff, and now I just feel the same. That didn't do nothing for me. But then it's amazing how God works, because 3 days later, it happened to be 3 days, 3 days later, I just felt this burden I was carrying. I just felt that it was gone, And then I felt God say to me, George, from now on, every other problem you have in your life is going to be easy, because you let that go. And I was like, wow. And it was true, man. When I heard God say that to me, just every little problem I've ever had just kind of, there's still problems, but they're not as big as they used to be and all that. But, like I said, getting back to the ministry part, like I said, I've had so much ministry opportunities in my life to do different things, and most of it had to do with music. And one of the stranger ones I ever had was I coached the basketball team one time, and I don't know nothing about basketball. I still don't know anything about basketball to this day. But one of my cousins came and asked me. He was in grade 6 or 7 or something like that, and he asked me to. He said, "The school said we can have a basketball team as long as we have a coach." And I told him, I said, "Well, I don't know nothing about basketball." He said, "No, it's okay. You just have to show up and come there." I said, "All right, sure." So I just showed up quite a bit for them, as much as I could, and let them play. And the funny thing is, we ended up winning the season. And everyone was like, "Oh, George, you must be a good basketball coach." I was like, no. I still don't know nothing. I said, "These guys," I said, they're the experts," I said. And one of the amazing things about that was I ended up doing a basketball night for about five years, every Saturday, back in the Pother. And the university, or the college, it was the college at the time, let us use their courts. So I'd have basketball games for them, and I would do, one of the things is we'd have basketball, and one of the rules is that I would always have a little Bible study with them. And like I said, I did that with them for quite a while, and that was really fun. It was challenging sometimes, because some of those guys would come there drunk, or they'd come there high, or, and it was just me most of the time by myself, and it was anywhere from 30 to maybe 80 people that would show up. So it was pretty challenging, like I said. But people would come out and help me every now and then, so I was always grateful that they'd come out and help me, because it was a little too much sometimes dealing with those guys and all that. But one of the things somebody told me about that one time was, sometimes you ever feel like you're doing stuff and you feel like, I'm not making a difference, And that's how I felt when I was doing this basketball thing. I just felt like, I'm not really doing anything. These guys are just coming here to play basketball, and that's it, I don't feel like they're changing. But then after like 2 or 3 years after I finished doing that, one of the fathers came up to me, and he said, "Hey, George, I want to tell you something." I was like, "What?" He said, "One time, I want you to know that," excuse me, my thing is going off here. All right. He said, "I want you to know that all those guys that you used to do basketball with," he said, I want you to know that none of those guys have ever joined gangs." And I thought about that. I was like, wow. And like I said, and I didn't feel like I was doing nothing for them, but to hear him tell me that, and I was thinking about all those guys, and some of those guys I'm still pretty good friends with, and some of them, they just show up there, and I didn't create friendships with all of them, but I still see them around every now and then. When I go back to the pond, I talk to them, and some of them have kids now, and we have good talks every now and then, but like I said, to hear that, it just really encouraged me, and I was like, oh, good, at least I thought I was doing it for nothing, and it really helped me to hear someone tell me that. And I just want to end with, someday I'm going to write a book. I want to write a book about all the stuff that I've been through, and everything I'm telling you is kind of just the abridged version. There's so much more I could tell you. I could talk up here for 2 hours and just tell you all my stuff God has done for me and things that I've been through and God has helped me with. But I want to end by saying that I don't tell you this stuff to make you feel sorry for me, but I share this stuff with people because I want, if anybody out there, any of us, if we have any hurts, let them go. Give them to God. If you have any unforgiveness, let that go. Give it to God. Because I had to learn to do that myself. Let go of all the hurts and everything and the disappointments that I've been through, and just give it to God. Say, here you go, God. I forgive that person. I give you this hurt. I'm not going to walk around with this anymore. Because I think unforgiveness is worse than cancer. If you have an unforgiven heart, cancer can be cured sometimes, but unforgiveness can't. And every one of us, has the power to cure unforgiveness and just forgive those that might have hurt us and let it go and give it to God. Thank you.